Before we get into today's mailbag, make sure you guys give me a follow over on Twitter at StoneShields_. All of our Bengals Breakdown content will be posted to my Twitter page. We are rapidly approaching 600 followers over there, so help me out. Give me a follow over on Twitter. Master Romuel. Hey, Stone. Cowherd has the Bengals at number 2 in the division for next season. Thoughts on that? I appreciate the question, Master Romuel. Look, all those talking heads on television, there's good things and bad things about all of them. I have always said Colin Cowherd is by far my favorite, and I think he's the most watchable guy. I honestly think he is incredible at what he does. As far as this specifically, as it relates to the Cincinnati Bengals, I don't have a problem with it, assuming he had Baltimore at 1. There isn't really a world where you could put Pittsburgh or Cleveland at 1, in my opinion. If you have Baltimore at 1, I can respect you. I disagree with you, but I definitely can respect that. Obviously, Baltimore has had tremendous success, and they've won a lot of close games over Cincinnati, too. You got to keep that in mind. The Bengals had Baltimore beat both times last year, and they found a way to mess up both on the road and at home at Paycor Stadium as well. So I don't have an issue with him being him putting the Bengals at 2 in the AFC North behind Baltimore, but that is not what I would do personally. Tim Tyra, a question here on today's show. Are the Bengals a playoff team now after the draft? Absolutely. Let me be very clear here. Your defense last year was horrible. It was abysmal. It was embarrassing. It was disgusting, right? But you had Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. You should have been a playoff team last year. Right? I think you were a playoff team last year, but your defense was just so bad. So, as long as you have those guys, I'm always going to say you're a playoff team. But I do think they really helped themselves out in several different spots through the draft and free agency, and, of course, bringing back T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. So, absolutely, I would say the Bengals are a playoff team right now. Donovan, do you believe the Bengals play their starters more in the preseason? Good question here from Donovan. I do, for several reasons. One, I don't think they really have an option not to, right? Because, look, I love Zach Taylor. Nobody defends Zach Taylor more than I do here on this show. But if he has another slow start, it's going to get really, really loud as far as Zach Taylor's job security. Look, Cincinnati's not going to fire him, but the noise is going to get borderline unbearable if they flop in September yet again. He has come out there and said, hey, we are going to play the starters more in the preseason. He's flat out said that. I really hope he sticks true with his word. I think for me personally, it's really those guys on defense that need to play more, make sure they're getting their tackling down, getting guys on the ground, and they're ready to go come week 1. But I think Burrow and the guys out there offensively, having them out there certainly would be beneficial for Cincinnati as well. Because if you remember week 1 last year against New England, who was one of the worst teams in the National Football League, your offense stunk too. And I really, your defense played fine in that game, but it was against Jacoby Brissett in that offense. Joe Burrow and the boys weren't ready to go. And, they obviously only played one series in the preseason, that first preseason game against Tampa. So, I definitely think it would be wise for the Cincinnati Bengals to play all of their starters more this preseason. Seth, who will be a surprise breakout this season? Ooh, good question here from Seth. Several different ways I could go with this. I kind of want to say multiple guys. I'm going to start out with DJ Ivey as a guy that could perhaps break out for this football team. Look, Cincinnati's going to need somebody in their secondary and along their defensive line to break out that you're not necessarily expecting to break out. DJ Ivey was your 7th-round pick a couple of years ago out of Miami. Suffered that serious injury just a couple weeks into his rookie season and obviously was out for a long time, but then did play for Cincinnati last year in spots. He was kind of a third down guy at that cornerback spot. I thought he did some really good things. His length, he's a massive guy. His length really is incredible for a cornerback. I am a big fan of his game, his competitive spirit. He flies around out there on the football field. He competes. He gets guys on the ground. So I would say DJ Ivey is probably one name that pops immediately into my mind. He's not going to start, but he's definitely going to have a bigger role in this defense this year, in my opinion. Also could say Tycen Anderson. We all love Tycen Anderson's game as our special teams ace, right? But perhaps if things aren't going too well at that safety spot with Jordan Battle and Geno Stone, maybe you see him inserted into the lineup at that spot. I thought maybe we would see it last year. Obviously, Lou Anarumo didn't like rotating his safeties. We'll see if Al Golden kind of has a different mindset and strategy when it comes to that. But those are two names that really popped to mind, DJ Ivey and Tycen Anderson. Your turn. Name a surprise breakout candidate for the Cincinnati Bengals. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. Who Day number 9. How many snaps should Shemar Stewart get? I think they should play him opposite of Hendrickson on all downs. Good question. I don't have a number that necessarily pops to mind here. He's definitely not going to be an every down guy. I mean, and neither is Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson's not an every down guy there as well. I think he's definitely going to be out there in obvious pass rush situations, right? And, I think the Bengals really liked what they saw from him in the run game there as well. And that could perhaps be a reason why they took him where they did at that 17th overall spot. It's going to be interesting. Look, Al Golden, Zach Taylor, they're going to want him. The mindset for him is to come in and play, right? They need someone to come in and provide some fireworks for him defensively. And they didn't bring him in to be the next Myles Murphy that doesn't really hardly play in year one. So I think they want him to play. How much is he going to play? We're all going to find out together. Don't have exactly a snap count for you. But I do think he's going to have a substantial role come week 1, and hopefully he can execute when he's given the opportunities. We'll continue with our show here in a second, but do want to give a shout-out to our friends over at Fanatics. Let you guys know that Bengals Draft Hats are still out, and they're still available now over at Fanatics at chatsports.com/Bengals Draft Hats. By the way, we'll put that in the comment section and the description of today's show. They've got some really cool ones over there. I really think this is one of the best years that they've had over at Fanatics. So draft obviously in the rearview mirror. Doesn't matter. Doesn't mean you can't get some Cincinnati Bengals swag courtesy of our friends over at Fanatics. Again, that link will be in the comments and the description of today's show. Evan, do you think we get the trade deal done? And if we don't, will he play? Good question here from Evan Anderson. Look, I came into the offseason and said, you know what? The Bengals are going to get Higgins done, Chase done, and Hendrickson done. Obviously got the first 2 done pretty early. Starting to think they're not going to get Hendrickson done. Several reasons as to why I believe that. I don't think Hendrickson and his camp have handled these off seasons very well at all, to be completely honest with you. Obviously went on the McAfee show, aired out the dirty laundry. It's not a good way to negotiate with the Cincinnati Bengals. They don't like that whatsoever. I don't think anybody would, but specifically the Cincinnati Bengals. And look, he's held out in the past, and then he shows up. He's under contract, all right? At his core, there's some drama around Trey Hendrickson. Obviously, there's going to be drama throughout training camp. But at his core, Trey Hendrickson's a dog, and he wants to go out there and sack the quarterback. So once he sees, his buddies and his teammates get up to speed and get raring to go, ready for week 1, I think he will show up. I definitely think he's going to miss some mandatory stuff. He's going to get those fines. But if Cincinnati doesn't budge, I think ultimately he will show up just because he loves to compete. But I hope I'm wrong. Hopefully Cincinnati gets something done. They are saving a lot of money here. They restructured Zach Moss. They restructured Geno Stone. Inevitable, they're going to cut Jermaine Pratt. That's going to save him a good chunk of change as well. Maybe that can help spearhead a new offer for Trey Hendrickson. But I'm starting to think it's not going to get done. I don't love saying that. But we'll all find out together here, obviously. Hopefully, fingers crossed, something can get done. Walter, do you have a problem with Burrow missing practice for the Met Gala? We've talked about this before here on this show. When it first came out, I felt some type of way about it when it first came out, just because of the fact that this is a guy that is the leader of this organization, the face of this team, maybe even the face of this city, and he's getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars to go play football, which, by the way, he's better at than anyone else in the world. And his boys were there. Jamar and T, obviously, they have their new contracts. They were there. Basically, everybody was there besides Trey Hendrickson and Joe Burrow. So at first, I was like, I don't love it, right? It was kind of my first reaction to it. Not from a football perspective. This is not going to affect his performance on the football field at all. It's May, right? It was, what was it, May 5th when he wasn't there? It's not going to affect him from a football perspective. From a leadership perspective, he's still going to be, the captain. Everyone's still going to look to him. But I don't know. I was asking myself, would Peyton Manning skip for the Met Gala? I don't think he would, right? Peyton Manning's my favorite player to ever play the game. So that's kind of what I compared it to. But at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything, right? It's May, right? It was one day, right? It's not like he's missing, the whole week. He was there the next day. Here, we're actually filming this on Wednesday, and he was there earlier today. So At the end of the day, I don't have any issues with it, but once I saw he wasn't there, I did kind of stop and think for a second, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't mean anything. And me, to be completely honest with you, if I was invited to the Met Gala, shoot, I'd probably go as well. Your turn. Do you have a problem with Joe Burrow missing practice for the Met Gala? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Type Y for yes or N for no. Daddy J, do you trust Newton over Hilton? Another good question here on today's show. We're going to find out. I think Mike Hilton did some tremendous stuff for Cincinnati throughout his career, obviously, throughout the playoff runs, the Super Bowl run. He was magnificent. I mean, the game against Buffalo in the snow, tremendous in that game as well. And I kind of thought Hilton definitely struggled at the beginning of the year. You saw Lou Anarumo take him off the field on third downs. They didn't trust him in coverage, getting matched up with those receivers. He can't run with the receivers like he used to. But he really came on strong at the end of last year. So did a couple of guys on that defense. So I thought maybe that would, entice Cincinnati into perhaps bringing him back. By the way, still unsigned as of filming this video. So I don't necessarily think it would be fair to say to Hilton to say that I trust Newton more than him. I like what we saw from Newton, right? I don't think the plan was for Newton to play last year, but obviously with all the injuries, he had to. And it wasn't great in spots, but as a rookie that was kind of a later draft pick, it's like, well, that's just kind of the way it is. So I wouldn't say I trust him more than Mike Hilton here, but I do have hope that he can help fill those shoes and perhaps be that nickel guy for Cincinnati in the slot, replacing Mike Hilton. If you are enjoying this mailbag, you are in luck. So we're going to continue to do them here on this show. Don't miss any of our future mailbags. Hit that sub button for me right now. Who Day number 9. What will Tahj Brooks' playing time look like? I think in year one, it's not going to be anything crazy. Tahj Brooks, obviously your 6th-round pick out of Texas Tech. I think he'll come in as that running back 4, which the Bengals only kept 3 last year to start the year. They're going to keep more than 3 this year. Especially with Moss coming back. You brought Pirine back from Kansas City, and obviously Chase Brown is your guy. So I don't think he's going to play a ton, but I do think the Bengals hope that he can be that RB2 to Chase Brown at some point in the future. I do think he was a steal. Getting Tahj Brooks in round 6, that running back class was just so loaded, and I really think it was kind of like round 4 value. And you were able to get him in the 6th round. So he's going to have a role with this football team at some point. I just think it'll probably be minimal, barring injuries, obviously, in 2025. Hubert Thomas. What is your opinion on Geno Stone? And can we trust him playing safety? I've said before on the show, I would have moved off him. I think, obviously, that's very harsh. To go out there and say that, but you came in, you had this vision, you signed him to a 2-year, $14 million deal after he balled out in Baltimore and played really well against you, and then it was kind of a disaster this past year. I think there was too many times he was in the wrong place, too many times he let guys get over his head, which obviously that's the number one no-no. As a safety, there was tackling issues there as well, but I do want to give a lot of credit to Geno Stone for the way he's handled things here in recent days and weeks. The Bengals asked him to take a pay cut, and he was like, you know what, I didn't play up to my standard this past year. He took the pay cut. He wants to stick around and prove it to himself and prove it to his teammates that he can go be a winning football player for them on the football field, so I commend him for that. I definitely would have addressed safety. Shoot, you had some guys in the 1st round that were great safeties that you could have taken. You went Shemar Stewart instead. I think, there's no reason to complain about that. I think at this point we all should get behind Shemar Stewart. But as far as the safety position goes, I definitely have some concern there. I'm rooting for Geno Stone, and I'm pulling for him, but there definitely is a lot of concern considering how he played last year.